People say dreams disappear the moment you open your eyes. For most of my life, I wished that were true. My name is Noah Asher. I'm 24 years old, and I have never forgotten a single dream. Not one. I can still remember the first dream I had when I was 5 years old. A giant white whale carried me across a sky filled with floating islands while stars fell upward instead of down. The whale spoke without moving its mouth. One day, you'll remember where everyone else forgets. At the time, I laughed and told my parents about my flying adventure over breakfast. They smiled. They thought it was just a child's imagination. I didn't realize that dream would become the first page of a story I had never chosen to write. I live alone in a small apartment overlooking the Kumo River in Kyoto. During the day, my life appears wonderfully ordinary. I work as a freelance illustrator, painting fantasy book covers, game concept art, and dreamlike landscapes for publishers around the world. Clients always tell me my artwork feels too real, as if I've actually visited the impossible places I paint. They're right. Every castle floating above the clouds, every glowing forest, every impossible creature, I've seen them all. Just not while awake. My apartment is filled with unfinished canvases, stacks of sketchbooks, and mugs of cold coffee that I always forget to drink. Music plays softly while I work, usually gentle piano pieces that help drown out the strange whispers lingering at the edges of my thoughts. Because even during the day, sometimes I hear echoes from my dreams. That Tuesday began like every other. Sunlight filtered through my curtains as I finished an illustration of a crystal library floating inside a thunderstorm. My editor, Maya, called through video chat. "Noah," she laughed, "you're making the rest of our artists look bad." I smiled. "I doubt that." She leaned closer to the camera. "Seriously, where do these ideas come from? Nobody imagines places like this." If only she knew. "I just have vivid dreams." She laughed again. "I wish mine were that interesting. Last night I dreamed about paying taxes." I chuckled politely. After ending the call, I stared at my latest painting. The Crystal Library. I'd been there 3 nights ago. Every window reflected a different lifetime. I had walked through its endless shelves until a faceless librarian whispered, "He's looking for you again." I never found out who he was. I woke before the answer came. As evening settled over Kyoto, I followed the same routine I had developed over the years. Tea, a warm shower, half a chapter of a mystery novel, then bed. Some people look forward to sleeping. I prepared for it the way soldiers prepare for battle. I switched off the bedside lamp, closed my eyes, counted my breathing. 1, 2, 3. Darkness slowly swallowed the room. Then came the sound. Tiny silver bells. Always the bells. Thousands of them. Soft, distant, beautiful. The mattress beneath me disappeared. The scent of rain faded. When I opened my eyes, I was somewhere else. Again. Moonlight illuminated endless stone streets stretching beneath a sky where enormous moons floated side by side. Paper lanterns drifted through the air without strings. Tiny stars fluttered like fireflies. Elegant buildings lined both sides of the avenue, their architecture blending Japanese temples, European castles, and impossible structures that ignored gravity entirely. People wandered peacefully through the streets. Or at least, they looked like people. Every single visitor wore a porcelain mask. Some resembled foxes. Others smiled. Others cried. Not one revealed a real face. This was the place I'd visited nearly every night for 16 years. The dream auction. Unlike ordinary dreams, this place never changed unless it wanted to. The cafe where tea tasted like forgotten childhood afternoons remained beside the fountain. The tailor still stitched robes from moonlight. The old musician still played melodies that changed the colors of the sky. Even the cobblestones remembered my footsteps. As I walked through the market, familiar merchants greeted me. "Good evening, dream walker." The flower seller bowed politely. Her roses bloomed with tiny memories trapped inside every petal. One blossom briefly showed a little girl hugging her father. Another contained someone's first snowfall. The baker handed me a warm pastry. No charge. It smells wonderful. It tastes like your happiest Tuesday. I smiled. He was right. It tasted exactly like the afternoon my mother taught me how to bake cinnamon rolls when I was 11. Warm, comforting, safe. No recipe in the real world could recreate that feeling. Only this place could. Despite its beauty, the dream auction carried a quiet sadness. Most visitors never realized they were here. As they wandered in sleep, merchants gently collected tiny fragments of their dreams. A forgotten melody, an unfinished poem, the courage someone almost found before confessing their love. Nothing large enough to be noticed. Usually, some collectors paid enormous prices for particularly rare dreams. Inventors purchased inspiration. Artists bought impossible colors. Kings traded centuries of memories for visions of peaceful futures. Everything had a price. Dreams, memories, hope, regret, even love, especially love. The older merchants often whispered, "Love is the most expensive dream in existence." I never understood why. Not yet. I wandered toward the central square. Something immediately felt wrong. The lanterns burned blue instead of warm gold. Merchants spoke in hushed voices. Even the fountain's water flowed backward. An elderly merchant I had known for years noticed my expression. "You feel it too. What happened?" He looked around before answering. "Something was stolen." I frowned. "Dreams are always bought." He slowly shook his head. "Not this time." A chill ran through me. Nothing had ever been stolen from the dream auction. The rules prevented it. Or so everyone believed. Suddenly, boom! A deep bell echoed across the marketplace. Every conversation stopped. Thousands of masked visitors turned toward the enormous marble building standing at the center of the city. The grand auction hall. Its towering golden doors slowly opened. Rows of glowing crystal stairs unfolded toward the sky. The auction master emerged. He wore flowing black robes covered in moving constellations. His porcelain mask had no eyes, only a perfectly calm smile. When he raised his crystal staff, silence swallowed the entire city. "Welcome!" His voice echoed from everywhere at once. "To tonight's final auction." Inside, the grand auction hall looked larger than any palace. Floating balconies circled endlessly upward into darkness. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen galaxies. Thousands of collectors filled the seats. Some looked human. Others clearly weren't. One had feathers instead of skin. Another shimmered like living water. No one spoke above a whisper. Servants rolled glowing treasures onto the central stage. The dream of humanity's first song. Sold. The last smile of a forgotten queen. Sold. The inspiration behind the greatest symphony never written. Sold. Collectors offered extraordinary payments. Entire lifetimes. Centuries of memories. Even their own identities. The atmosphere grew heavier with every sale. Then, the lights dimmed. The auction master raised one elegant hand. "Our final treasure." Even the air stopped moving. The last dream of a dying god. Gasps filled the chamber. A single silver feather floated above an empty crystal pedestal. It radiated soft, celestial light that made reality itself ripple. Every collector stood. Bidding erupted instantly. "I offer 500 years of memories. My family's dreams for 12 generations. I offer my immortal name." The auction master remained perfectly still, smiling, watching. Then, a calm voice interrupted the frenzy. "I bid nothing." Silence. Every head turned toward the entrance. Standing beneath the enormous doorway was a young man unlike anyone I had ever seen here. No porcelain mask. No ceremonial robes. Just a long black coat still damp from rain. Sharp gray eyes calmly scanned the room. Dark brown hair framed a face that looked both exhausted and determined. He wasn't asleep. He was awake. Exactly like me. For 16 years, I had believed I was the only living human capable of entering the dream auction consciously. Now, someone else had found it. His eyes met mine across the crowded hall. Recognition flashed between us. Not recognition from this life, but something older. Something buried deep beneath memory itself. The auction master slowly lowered his staff. His smile finally disappeared. Then, for the first time since I had known him, fear crossed his face. He looked directly at the stranger and said, "You shouldn't have found this place, Detective Elian Voss." The mysterious man took one confident step forward. "I didn't come to bid." He reached into his coat and produced an old silver pocket watch whose hands were spinning backward. "I came to stop the thief." The watch suddenly shattered into dozens of glowing fragments. At the same instant, every lantern in the grand auction hall went dark. A deafening scream echoed from somewhere beneath the building. Then the crystal pedestal holding the last dream of a dying god exploded into silver light. The explosion never made a sound. The next, it dissolved into millions of glowing fragments that drifted through the grand auction hall like snow caught in slow motion. Then darkness swallowed everything. Not ordinary darkness. This darkness breathed. I couldn't see my own hands. I couldn't hear the panicked crowd. Even my heartbeat disappeared. For one terrifying moment, I wondered if I had stopped existing. Then a warm hand seized my wrist. "Don't let go." The voice was calm, firm, unfamiliar. A pale blue light flickered to life. Standing beside me was the mysterious man from the entrance. The one the auction master had called Detective Elian Voss. Without the bright chandeliers above us, I could finally study him properly. He looked to be around 26, tall with broad shoulders and an athletic build. His dark brown hair was slightly messy, as though he had been running through the rain before arriving here. Sharp steel-gray eyes scanned every shadow with practiced caution, while a faint scar curved just beneath his left eyebrow, hinting at a dangerous past. Unlike everyone else in the hall, he wore no mask. Just a black wool coat over a charcoal turtleneck and dark trousers. Completely ordinary clothes in an impossible world. Yet somehow, he belonged here less than I did. His grip tightened around my wrist. "If you want to survive, stay close." I stared at him. "You can see me?" He blinked. "Of course I can." "No, I mean..." Words failed me. For 16 years, nobody here has ever looked directly at me. His expression softened for a brief moment. "So you've been alone this whole time?" Before I could answer, a shrill scream echoed through the darkness. The floor beneath us trembled. Cracks spread across the marble like veins of black glass. The dream auction was breaking. Blue flames suddenly erupted around the shattered pedestal. From the darkness emerged the auction master. His elegant robes had changed. The moving constellations embroidered across the fabric had vanished, replaced by empty patches of darkness that seemed to consume light itself. For the first time, his porcelain mask showed emotion. Fear. He looked directly at Elian. "You brought it here." Elian stepped in front of me. "No." His voice remained steady. "I followed it." The auction master's staff struck the floor. "The Dream Eater has crossed the threshold." Instantly, every merchant in the hall gasped. Several collectors fled toward the exits. Others simply disappeared into clouds of silver dust. The old flower merchant clutched her chest. "It can't be." The seals were never broken. The baker who always greeted me looked 20 years older in an instant. "Run, Dreamwalker." He looked directly at me. "Take him and leave." Before either of us could move, the ceiling cracked open. Not with falling stone. With sky. An endless black sky full of unfamiliar stars appeared above the auction hall. Something enormous moved beyond them. I couldn't see its full body. Only one gigantic golden eye. It opened slowly, looking directly at us. The eye was larger than the moon. His pupil narrowed. Then, it blinked. The force of that single blink shattered every remaining chandelier. Collectors screamed. Reality itself rippled. The dream auction was no longer a marketplace. It had become prey. "Move!" Elian pulled me backward just as a massive crystal pillar crashed where we had been standing. Dust filled the air. We ran through collapsing corridors while impossible things happened around us. Paintings melted into rivers. Doors opened onto oceans. Staircases twisted upward into empty skies. Every hallway changed the moment we entered it. "What is happening?" I shouted. Elian didn't slow down. "The Dream Eater doesn't destroy worlds." He looked over his shoulder. "It erases them." We burst through an ancient wooden door and emerged into a quiet alley behind the auction hall. Unlike the chaos inside, the marketplace remained strangely peaceful. Visitors continued browsing stalls. Children laughed while chasing glowing butterflies. Musicians played beneath floating lanterns. None of them seemed aware that reality itself was collapsing only a few streets away. I stopped running. How can they not see it? They're asleep. Elian looked toward the marketplace. Their minds only perceive what the auction allows. And you? I'm awake. So am I. Our eyes met. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he smiled. It wasn't a large smile, just enough to soften the sharp edges of his face. "I've spent 6 years searching for someone like you." We found shelter inside a tiny tea house overlooking a lake made entirely of stars. The elderly owner quietly served us steaming cups without asking for payment. He simply bowed. "I hope this isn't your last visit." Then he disappeared upstairs. Silence settled between us. Finally, Elian spoke. "My name is Elian Voss." "I know. You do. The auction master called you detective." He nodded. "I work for Kyoto Metropolitan Police." I nearly laughed. "A detective? In the real world? I investigate missing persons." His expression darkened. "Or, I used to." He reached into his coat and removed several photographs. Each showed a different person, different ages, different occupations. One thing connected them all. Every single face looked empty. "They've been in comas." I studied the photos carefully. "No brain damage?" He shook his head. "They're perfectly healthy. But they never wake up." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. "What do they have in common?" "They all stopped dreaming." I nearly dropped my tea. "What?" "My department called it an unexplained neurological condition." He looked toward the glowing lake. "I didn't believe that. So I started investigating their final days." He slid another photograph across the table. An elderly painter. He completed his masterpiece. Another. A composer who suddenly forgot every melody he'd ever written. Another. A child who woke one morning unable to recognize happiness. I whispered, "Their dreams. They were stolen." For the first time, I told someone everything. About the market, the merchants, the dream collectors, the auctions, the impossible food, the memories sold like precious jewels. Even the giant white whale from my first dream. Elian listened without interrupting. When I finished, he quietly reached into his pocket. "I have something." He unfolded a faded photograph. 2 children. One was him. The other, a little boy with bright eyes and a cheerful smile. "My younger brother." "What happened?" "He disappeared 8 years ago." "Kidnapped?" He slowly shook his head. "He vanished while sleeping. No signs of struggle. No broken windows. No footprints. Just gone." The only thing left behind was a single porcelain mask lying on his pillow. My breath caught. Porcelain mask. From the dream auction. Before either of us could speak, the teacup in my hands cracked. Not from heat. From something inside it. Black smoke slowly rose from the tea. The room suddenly grew cold. Outside, every floating lantern turned crimson. The elderly tea shop owner appeared at the top of the stairs. His face had gone pale. "They found you." Elian stood instantly. "Who?" The old man looked toward the window. "They're no longer searching for the dream of the dying god." He swallowed hard. "They're hunting the dream walker." My heart stopped. Me? The old man nodded. Someone has placed a price on your dreams. The room fell silent. No dream in history had ever carried a bounty. Until now. Outside the window, dozens of masked figures slowly gathered beneath the crimson lanterns. None of them were merchants. None were collectors. Each wore identical black porcelain masks without expressions. One by one, they looked directly at me. Then all of them spoke in perfect unison. Deliver the dream walker, or everyone who dreams will never wake again. The voices outside the tea house echoed through the marketplace like a funeral hymn. Deliver the dream walker, or everyone who dreams will never wake again. Every lantern burned crimson. The cheerful streets I had known for 16 years suddenly felt unfamiliar. Dream merchants hurried to close their shops, while sleeping visitors continued wandering peacefully, completely unaware that danger surrounded them. I stood frozen near the window. They're here because of me. The old tea master quietly placed another cup on the table. No. He looked at me with kind, tired eyes. They're here because of what sleeps inside you. I frowned. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the front door burst open. A masked merchant stumbled inside, his robes torn and covered in silver dust. They've crossed the river of memories. He struggled to catch his breath. The dream hunters are searching every district. The tea master's face darkened. There isn't much time. Elian stepped beside me, his expression calm despite the growing chaos. We need answers. The tea master nodded slowly. There is one place the hunters cannot enter. He walked to the back of the room and pushed aside an old bookshelf. Hidden behind it was a narrow stone staircase spiraling downward. The Garden of Forgotten Hearts. I had never heard that name before. I've been coming here for 16 years. I whispered. How could I not know about it? The old man smiled sadly. Because the garden only appears when two awakened dreamers walk together. His eyes shifted between me and Elian. It has been waiting for both of you. The staircase seemed endless. The deeper we descended, the quieter the world became. Eventually, the stone walls disappeared. We stepped into a breathtaking valley bathed in soft moonlight. I couldn't speak. An endless garden stretched before us. Millions of glowing flowers covered rolling hills beneath an emerald sky. Instead of petals, every flower held tiny floating memories. One blossom showed a little girl learning to ride a bicycle. Another revealed an elderly couple dancing beneath autumn leaves. A third displayed a soldier embracing his mother before leaving home. Every flower contained someone's happiest memory. The air smelled of jasmine and rain. Crystal butterflies drifted silently between the blossoms. This, I whispered, is beautiful. The tea master's voice echoed behind us. Every person who has ever truly loved leaves a flower here. Elian slowly walked among the blossoms. His usually serious face softened. I've never seen anything like this. I smiled. Neither have I. For a while, neither of us spoke. We simply wandered together through the glowing field. Felt peaceful, safe, as though the rest of the dream auction no longer existed. Then I noticed a small white flower growing alone beneath an ancient cherry tree. Unlike the others, its petals were closed. Curious, I knelt beside it. The moment my fingers brushed the stem, a vision flooded my mind. Snow drifted through the night. I stood on the balcony of an unfamiliar castle overlooking a frozen sea. Beside me was Elian, only he looked different. His hair was much longer. He wore silver armor instead of modern clothes. He smiled warmly as he wrapped a wool cloak around my shoulders. You always forget how cold winter is. I laughed. And you always worry too much. He gently took my hand. I'll worry about you for the rest of my life. The memory shimmered. He leaned closer. Our foreheads touched. I'll find you. His voice became distant. No matter how many worlds disappear, I'll always find you. The vision shattered. I gasped and stumbled backward. Elian caught my arm before I fell. What happened? I stared at him in disbelief. My heart raced. I saw you. His eyebrows lifted. When? A long time ago. You were wearing armor. There was snow. You said. My voice trembled. You promised you'd always find me. Silence settled between us. Elian's expression slowly changed. Without warning, he reached toward another flower. The instant he touched it, he froze. His breathing became uneven. When he opened his eyes again, there were tears in them. I saw it too. Neither of us understood what was happening. But somehow, the garden did. As we continued walking, more flowers bloomed around us. Each one revealed another life, another world, another version of us. A pirate captain and a royal navigator. Two musicians separated by war. Scientists aboard a dying colony ship. A prince and his bodyguard. A healer and a wandering swordsman. Different names. Different faces. Different centuries. Yet every story ended the same way. One of us always disappeared. The other was left behind. Over and over and over again. I sank onto a stone bench beneath the cherry tree. How many lives? Elian quietly sat beside me. I don't know. The breeze carried glowing petals around us. But it feels. He searched for the right words. Like I've been missing someone my entire existence. I looked at him. So have I. For the first time since we met, the silence between us felt comfortable. Neither awkward nor uncertain. Simply peaceful. Our shoulders brushed as we watched the glowing flowers sway in the gentle wind. Without thinking, our hands slowly found each other. Neither of us pulled away. His fingers were warm, steady, safe. I looked down at our joined hands, then back at him. A faint smile appeared on his face. I guess I wasn't imagining it. What? That feeling. What feeling? He laughed softly. Like I've known you much longer than 2 days. My cheeks warmed. I was about to say the same thing. The peaceful moment didn't last. A loud crack echoed across the garden. One by one, the glowing flowers began turning black. The sky darkened. Crystal butterflies fell lifeless to the ground. The cherry tree behind us trembled violently. The tea master's frightened voice rang through the valley. No! It's found the garden. A wave of black mist rolled across the hills. Every flower it touched withered instantly. From within the darkness, a tall figure slowly emerged. Unlike the dream hunters, this being wore no mask. His face was hidden beneath a hood woven from living shadows. Golden eyes glowed beneath the darkness. He smiled. So. His voice echoed like whispers inside my mind. The dream walker finally remembers. Elian immediately stepped in front of me. Who are you? The stranger ignored him. His golden eyes remained fixed on me. You've forgotten your true name. My heartbeat quickened. My name is Noah. He slowly shook his head. No. He raised one pale hand. That is merely the name you chose in this lifetime. The air around him distorted. The one I seek was born before dreams themselves. The entire garden shook violently. Flowers exploded into silver light. The hooded stranger extended his hand toward me. Come home. I've been waiting. Since the first universe ended. The stranger's words echoed through the dying garden. Come home. I've been waiting since the first universe ended. The moment he extended his hand toward me, every flower in the garden of forgotten hearts dissolved into silver dust. The glowing memories they had protected rose into the sky like countless fireflies before being swallowed by the growing darkness. A painful pressure gripped my chest. Images I had never lived flashed before my eyes. A child laughing beside a crystal lake. A soldier dying beneath a blood-red moon. Two men standing hand in hand at the edge of a collapsing world. Every memory ended with the same face. Elian. I staggered backward, struggling to breathe. What are you doing to me? The hooded man smiled. I'm simply allowing you to remember. Elian stepped between us without hesitation. "You'll have to go through me." The stranger regarded him with quiet amusement. "You always make the same choice." His golden eyes narrowed. "In every lifetime." Before Elian could respond, the stranger snapped his fingers. The ground beneath us shattered like glass. The beautiful garden disappeared. For a heartbeat, we fell through endless darkness. Then, I crashed onto cold stone. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the middle of a deserted street. Rain fell silently from a gray sky. Towering buildings stretched endlessly into the clouds. Thousands of apartment windows glowed with warm light. Yet, there wasn't a single person outside. The city felt alive, but completely abandoned. Elian groaned nearby as he pushed himself to his feet. "Where are we?" A familiar voice answered behind us. "The city that never wakes." The tea master had somehow fallen with us. His usually calm face was filled with worry. "This is the deepest layer of the dream auction." I slowly stood. "It feels." I searched for the right word. "Lonely." The tea master nodded. "It should. Every soul sleeping here has forgotten how to wake." We walked through silent streets lined with cafes, bookstores, flower shops, and old cinemas. Everything looked perfectly ordinary, except for one impossible detail. Inside every building, people slept. A mother asleep while reading to her child. A chef asleep beside a pot still simmering on the stove. Students asleep over open textbooks. An elderly couple sleeping together on a park bench. None of them moved. None of them aged. Their dreams had become prisons. Elian's expression darkened. "So these are the coma victims." The tea master lowered his head. "Not all of them." He looked toward the endless skyline. "Some have been here for centuries." As we continued walking, I noticed something strange. Every sleeping person looked peaceful, smiling, as though they were living their happiest memories forever. "If they're happy," I asked quietly, "why wake them?" The tea master stopped walking. "Because dreams were never meant to replace life." He pointed toward a little girl sleeping beside a playground. "She has dreamed of being 7 years old for 300 years. My chest tightened. "She doesn't know she's trapped." "No. She believes tomorrow will always come." Hours seemed to pass as we wandered through the endless city. The rain never stopped. The sky never brightened. Finally, we reached the city's center. There stood an enormous clock tower. His hands pointed to exactly 3:33. Neither hand moved. The tea master looked up at it. "When this clock begins ticking again, the dream auction will disappear forever." The massive wooden doors slowly opened on their own. Inside, thousands of clocks covered the walls. Pocket watches, grandfather clocks, digital clocks, ancient sundials. Every one of them displayed the same time. 3:33. At the center of the room stood a glowing crystal suspended above an empty pedestal. Pulsed gently like a heartbeat. "What is it?" I whispered. The tea master's voice trembled. "The dream core. The heart of every dream humanity has ever dreamed." As I stepped closer, the crystal suddenly brightened. A soft voice echoed inside my mind. "Welcome back." I froze. No one else seemed to hear it. "We've missed you." The light became warmer, gentler, almost familiar. Without thinking, I reached toward it. The instant my fingertips touched the crystal, everything vanished. I stood inside a white room with no walls, no ceiling, no floor, only endless light. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. Birds sang. Ocean waves rolled softly against invisible shores. A woman appeared before me. She wore flowing silver robes that shimmered like moonlight. Her long white hair drifted as though underwater. Her kind blue eyes held unimaginable sadness. She smiled gently. "Noah." I stared at her. "Who are you?" She placed a hand against my cheek. "My child." A strange ache spread through my chest. "I've waited a very long time." Tears filled my eyes before I understood why. "I know you." She nodded. You do. But not from this life. Before I could ask another question, the room cracked. Dark shadows poured through the fractures. The hooded stranger stepped into the white space. His golden eyes burned with fury. You found him. The woman stood protectively in front of me. You are no longer welcome here. He laughed quietly. You still believe he belongs to humanity? He chose humanity. He has chosen humanity every time. The stranger's smile disappeared. And every time, they forget him. The white room collapsed around us. I found myself back inside the clock tower. Except, everything looked different. The tea master was gone. The crystal had vanished. The clocks had stopped ticking completely. Most terrifying of all, I couldn't remember why I was there. I looked around in confusion. Excuse me. My own voice sounded unfamiliar. Who am I? Panic spread through my chest. My name. I couldn't remember my name. My family. Gone. My apartment. Gone. My childhood. Gone. Everything had disappeared. Only one thing remained. A face. Standing a few meters away. Dark hair. Steel gray eyes. Someone was calling to me. His voice sounded desperate. Noah. Noah. Was that me? Couldn't tell. The stranger kept shouting. Running toward me. His eyes filled with fear. I remember you. I stared at him blankly. I'm sorry. I don't think we've met. His footsteps stopped. The heartbreak on his face was almost unbearable. For several long seconds, he couldn't speak. Then, despite my empty gaze, he smiled. A small, gentle, painfully sincere smile. He walked closer until we stood only inches apart. Very carefully, he took my trembling hand. His voice barely rose above a whisper. That's okay. If you've forgotten, I'll help you remember. He squeezed my hand gently. Even if I have to tell you our story, one dream at a time. At that exact moment, the great clock above us suddenly ticked. Once, for the first time in countless centuries. Far below the tower, every sleeping soul in the city that never wakes opened their eyes simultaneously. And somewhere deep beneath the streets, something ancient awakened. The single tick of the great clock echoed through the city that never wakes. It wasn't loud. Yet every building trembled as though reality itself had taken its first breath in centuries. Outside the tower, windows burst open one after another. People stepped onto balconies in confusion. Children looked at the sky as if seeing daylight for the first time. Old men embraced their wives. Strangers laughed. Others cried without understanding why tears streamed down their faces. The sleepers were finally waking. But our battle had only just begun. I still couldn't remember my own name. The only thing anchoring me to reality was the warmth of the man standing before me. Elian. Although I couldn't recall how I knew him, my heart reacted every time our eyes met. He never let go of my hand. It's all right, he whispered. You don't have to force yourself. I'll remember enough for both of us. His calm voice settled the panic inside me. Somewhere deep within my empty mind, a faint spark flickered. I didn't know who I was, but I knew I trusted him. Without warning, the floor beneath the clock tower shook violently. The walls cracked from ceiling to floor. Every clock in the room began spinning backward. Tick, tick, tick. Thousands of ticking sounds merged into one deafening roar. A vortex of black mist erupted from the center of the chamber. The hooded stranger emerged once more. This time, he was no longer hiding his power. His shadow stretched across the entire tower. Golden eyes burned like twin suns. You continue to resist destiny. His voice resonated through every corner of the city. Elian stepped forward. No, we're choosing it. The stranger laughed. Choice? There has never been a choice. He raised one hand. The walls around us dissolved into endless space. Stars drifted across a sea of darkness. The clock tower was gone. The city was gone. We stood upon a circular platform floating in the void. At its center stood the largest auction hall I had ever seen. The final auction. Rows upon rows of silent spectators filled endless balconies. None wore masks. Instead, they shimmered like translucent memories. Men, women, children. Thousands upon thousands of souls watched us quietly. The tea master appeared beside us. His robes glowed softly. His back was straight. His silver hair had become black. He bowed respectfully. "Welcome to the first dream." I looked around. "What is this place?" He smiled sadly. "The place where humanity first learned to hope." At the center of the hall floated the dream core. It no longer resembled a crystal. Instead, it looked like a tiny galaxy. Stars swirled inside it. Entire worlds were born and vanished within seconds. The tea master spoke softly. "Every dream ever dreamed, every wish, every act of kindness, every confession of love, they all return here." The hooded stranger slowly approached the core. "And today, they will belong to me." For the first time, the tea master revealed the truth. Long before humanity existed, the universe had begun to collapse. Civilizations destroyed one another. Stars faded. Hope disappeared. Then, the first beings capable of dreaming sacrificed themselves. Their dreams became the dream core. As long as humanity continued dreaming, reality remained stable. The dream auction had never existed to steal dreams. Protected them. It collected enough hope to keep existence alive. The hooded stranger looked toward me. And he was chosen as its guardian. My chest tightened. Fragments of memory exploded through my mind. White whales, floating libraries, crystal gardens, snow-covered castles. Hundreds, thousands, millions of forgotten lives, each ending the same way. I stood before the dream core, choosing humanity, again, and again, and again. Tears filled my eyes. "I remember." Elian turned toward me. I reached for his hand. "I remember everything." The memories returned like waves crashing against a shore. Every lifetime, every farewell, every promise, every time we had found one another, every time one of us had been forced to stay behind. Elian smiled through tears. "So do I." The hooded stranger extended both arms. The dream core darkened. Night spread across the endless hall. I offered humanity eternity. They answered with fear. I offered paradise. They chose suffering. So I shall grant them neither. Shadows consumed the stars. Dreams began disappearing. One by one. Children forgot how to imagine. Artists forgot inspiration. Parents forgot lullabies. Lovers forgot each other's faces. Across countless worlds, hope vanished. "No!" I ran toward the dream core. The darkness struck like a tidal wave. Before it reached me, Elian stepped in front of it. The impact hurled him across the platform. He crashed against the marble floor. Blood stained his sleeve. "Elian!" I dropped beside him. He struggled to breathe. Still, he smiled. "You finally remembered." I held him tightly. "I won't lose you again." His hand touched my cheek. "You don't have to fight alone anymore." The dream core pulsed. A warm voice echoed across the hall. "Guardian, the choice remains yours." I looked toward the glowing galaxy. "If I become the guardian again, I'll lose him." The voice answered gently. "Yes." Elian slowly shook his head. "No." He pulled him. "There has to be another way." The tea master smiled. "There is." Every eye turned toward him. "The core was never meant for one soul." Silence. He continued. "It has always waited for two." Elian looked at me. I looked at him. Neither of us spoke. Words were no longer necessary. We had lived countless lives searching for one another. Every promise, every goodbye, every reunion had led us here. He reached for my hand. I intertwined my fingers with his. Together, we walked toward the dream core. The hooded stranger screamed. No! Darkness surged around us, but it could no longer separate us. The moment we touched the glowing core together, light erupted across the universe. Not blinding, gentle, warm, like the feeling of finally coming home. The darkness shattered into countless fragments. The hooded stranger removed his hood at last. He looked tired, not evil, only unbearably lonely. He smiled faintly. So, you found the answer. His body dissolved into silver starlight. I couldn't. He disappeared peacefully, leaving only silence behind. The dream core expanded until it embraced the entire hall. Every stolen dream returned to its owner. Across the universe, children dreamed again. Painters found forgotten colors. Composers heard new melodies. Families awoke smiling without knowing why. Hope had returned. Yet as the light surrounded us, I felt something slipping away once more. I looked at Elian. He looked back at me. I think, I whispered, we're saying goodbye again. He gently rested his forehead against mine. Maybe. His smile was filled with quiet certainty. But if there's one thing we've proven across every lifetime, he closed his eyes. It's that we'll always find each other. The light became brighter, brighter, until there was nothing left but warmth. And then, everything faded into white. The first thing I heard was birdsong. Not the haunting melodies of the dream auction. Not the echo of ancient bells. Just ordinary birds greeting an ordinary morning. Warm sunlight rested against my face as I slowly opened my eyes. White curtains danced gently in the breeze. The scent of fresh coffee drifted through the apartment. For several quiet moments, I simply stared at the ceiling. Something felt different, as though I had awakened from a dream so beautiful that my heart still ached for it, even though I couldn't remember why. I glanced at the calendar beside my bed. April 18th, Saturday. Another normal day, or so I believed. Life moved on. The weeks passed quietly. My illustration career flourished more than ever before. Publishers praised my newest collection, Beyond Every Dream, a series of paintings unlike anything I had created before. Floating lanterns, crystal flowers, an endless city beneath a gray sky, a white whale soaring through the stars. I couldn't explain why I painted them. Whenever people asked where the ideas came from, I simply smiled. I don't know. They just feel familiar. Sometimes, while working late into the night, I caught myself leaving an empty chair across from my desk, as if someone should have been sitting there. I always laughed at myself afterward. Strange habit. Elsewhere in Kyoto, Detective Elian Voss had returned to work. The mysterious coma cases that had consumed 6 years of his life had suddenly ended. Every patient awakened on the same morning. Doctors called it a miracle. Scientists called it impossible. Elian called it unfinished. Although he could no longer remember what he had been searching for, an empty space remained inside him. His apartment contained one object he couldn't explain. An old porcelain mask. Pure white. Without eyes. Without expression. He had found it on his bookshelf one morning. No fingerprints. No records. No memory of owning it. Yet he never threw it away. Something told him it mattered. One rainy afternoon, nearly 6 months later, I wandered into a quiet little cafe beside the Como River. The place was almost empty. Soft jazz played through old speakers. Books lined wooden shelves. The smell of cinnamon filled the air. I ordered coffee and settled beside the window with my sketchbook. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the river. Without thinking, I began drawing. Not landscapes, not buildings. Hands. 2 hands reaching for each other beneath a sky full of floating lanterns. I frowned. I've drawn this before. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. Excuse me. I looked up. A man stood beside my table. Tall, dark brown hair, steel gray eyes. Something inside my chest tightened. He smiled politely. I'm sorry. Every other table is full. Would you mind if I sat here? For some reason, my heart answered before my mouth could. Of course. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence felt strangely comfortable, as though we'd shared it many times before. Eventually, he noticed my sketch. "That's beautiful." I smiled. "Thanks. I don't know why I keep drawing it." He studied the page. His expression slowly changed. "I've dreamed about those lanterns." I blinked. "You have?" He nodded thoughtfully. "And those flowers?" He pointed toward another page. "They always appear beside someone whose face I can never remember." A strange warmth spread through my chest. "I've had dreams like that too." Rain continued tapping softly against the windows. Hours passed without either of us noticing. We spoke about books, art, music, travel, childhood memories. Everything felt effortless, natural. At one point, we laughed at the exact same joke before either of us had finished saying it. He looked surprised. "So?" He stirred his coffee absent-mindedly. "This is going to sound strange." I smiled. "Try me." He hesitated, then quietly asked, "Do you ever feel like you've spent your whole life looking for someone, without knowing who they are?" My breath caught. Every hair on my arms stood on end. "I do." Our eyes met. For several long seconds, neither of us looked away. Something invisible connected us. Not memory, not recognition, something deeper. As evening approached, we stepped outside together. The rain had stopped. Golden light reflected across the river. Cherry blossoms, blooming unexpectedly late, drifted through the air. We walked slowly along the riverside path. Neither of us seemed eager to say goodbye. "I never asked your name," he said. I laughed softly. "You're right. I'm Noah." He stopped walking. A faint smile appeared on his face. "I'm Elian." The moment he spoke his name, a sudden breeze swept through the trees. Hundreds of white petals spiraled around us. For the briefest instant, I saw another world, a moonlit garden, a city that never woke, a crystal clock tower, a young man promising, "I'll always find you." The vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I touched my chest. "Did you see that?" Elian nodded slowly. "I don't know what it was, but..." He smiled with quiet certainty. "It felt like coming home." Months passed. Our friendship slowly became something deeper. There were no grand confessions, no dramatic declarations, only small moments, cooking dinner together, walking beside the river after work, visiting art museums, sharing umbrellas during unexpected rain, watching the stars in comfortable silence. One winter evening, while decorating my apartment for the holidays, Elian found an old sketch tucked inside a forgotten notebook. It showed two figures standing beneath an endless sky of floating lanterns. On the back, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, were 6 simple words. "We'll find each other. Every lifetime." He looked at me. "I don't remember writing this." "Neither do I." We exchanged quiet smiles. Some mysteries didn't need to be solved. Years later, our lives remained wonderfully ordinary. I opened a small art studio overlooking the river. Elian became one of the city's most respected detectives. People often asked how we had met. We always answered the same way. At a cafe. It wasn't a lie. It simply wasn't the whole truth. Some stories begin long before the first meeting. Far beyond the waking world. Beyond stars. Beyond time. Beyond memory itself. The dream auction stood empty. Its great halls were silent. Its endless lanterns glowed with a peaceful golden light. The garden of forgotten hearts bloomed brighter than ever before. At its center grew 2 magnificent white flowers side by side. Their roots intertwined beneath the earth. Their petals reached toward the same sky. The old tea master walked slowly through the garden. No longer a guardian, simply a gardener. He smiled as he looked toward the horizon. The universe no longer needs protectors. It has something stronger. Above him, countless new dreams rose into the night like shimmering stars. Not collected, not traded, not owned. Free to belong to those who dreamed them. And somewhere beneath that endless sky, two young men laughed together as they walked home. They never remembered saving the universe. They never remembered the countless lifetimes they had shared. They only knew that, somehow, life felt brighter when they were together. Perhaps that was enough. Perhaps love had never needed memories to survive. It had only ever needed two hearts willing to choose each other, again and again. No matter the world, no matter the dream, no matter the lifetime,